just in case somebody, because it's only been out for 24 hours, just in case somebody hasn't watched the ATV yet, they don't know. Let's do the nickel version. What is the service beacon system? Dime store version.
So service beacon system is a player-generated mission system, essentially. So we've got the framework of it in. There's only a couple beacon types right now, but it allows players to create content for each other, which allows them to, create form alliances or, friendship bonds. It brings people together in what is an incredibly large universe. So that's the 2-cent version.
Well, I asked for the 10-cent version. What else you got?
Oh, my bad. So
he's a cheap dude.
Yeah, it allows them to set their own reward price, dictate the conditions of the contract. Although there's very few options right now, we look to expand that. The players are going to be able to filter the beacons that they're notified about. These are all things that are intended for the system at the end of the day. So it's going to be something where you shouldn't really be able to tell the difference between player-generated content versus the content that we create. We really want it to just feel like it's another contract out there. It's another thing that you can go and do. And eventually, we'd like to have NPCs to be able to respond to these as well. So if your beacon's up and it's for a reasonable price, nobody's responding, we'd like for an NPC to come and help you out. So
yeah, just to kind of drive home that original point there. For me, I think the service beacons are actually really important, and they actually make the game more like what I want Star Citizen to be. It brings an amount of interaction with the players that you don't get in other games. You see these other games, and they have lots of people in the game, but a lot of times you're basically playing a single-player experience alongside each other with a lot of people online. And you just look at this, and you think to yourself, there's so much that can be done with this that you just leave on the table. You don't get it utilized at all. And I think the service beacons are a really good solution to getting the players to play together and to make content for each other and make unique situations that can't be scripted, couldn't be dreamt up by some mission system or whatever. So I think it's actually going to be a pretty fundamental part of what makes Star Citizen a special game.
Yeah,
that's about 8 cents worth. What you got, Michael? Make up the last two.
The last two, I agree pretty much everything both of them said, especially what Chad said. I think this really pulls away for players to interact with other players and build that that not necessarily economy, but that social envelope that goes on there with all of that. So you learn, oh, these players are really good. You start building those bonds in the game or enemies in the game if certain things happen. But yeah, it starts building out from being just, okay, I'm flying my ship through space to I'm in this environment with other living people, and you get this more dynamic interaction. So.
All right, so we are taking questions live from the chat. You can submit your questions if you're a live viewer in two places. You can submit them in Twitch chat, where we're broadcasting now. You can submit your question, preface with the word question in capital letters surrounded by brackets. It's going to help our good friend Tyler Wicken pull them out of the chat. You can also submit your questions in Spectrum General, which is our bespoke communication platform up on robertspaceindustries.com. In addition, for folks who couldn't be here with us, we put a thread up in Spectrum yesterday where we collected questions over the last 24 hours, and then allowed people to vote on which ones they wanted to see us address most. So right off the bat, the questions are coming in right now. Like Tyler is blowing up right now. He literally just said, "So many are good questions." So you guys are doing great. We're going to start with the one that was voted up the most, though. Just get it out of the way. It says, "What mechanism will prevent abuse from the person putting out a service beacon? For example, I ask for an escort through an area where I have friends setting up an ambush for us. They, not me, disable him and salvage his ship for profit. Now, I don't have to pay for a successful escort attempt. The person who took up the contract is out moneying his ship, and my friends have a ship and spare parts to sell. Is that working as intended? What's the deal there?"
That's a collaborative effort that I don't know how you protect against. I mean, if there is a rating system that is part of this. So if this is a consistent thing that keeps happening, eventually these people will get weeded out. And, if you only want a 4-star rated or a 5-star rated person to escort you, then clearly they have a reputation for getting you to the other side safely or performing the service that you're asking for to a high level of completions. So I think that the rating system will be a big part of filtering that out. It's hard to imagine a rule set that we could program to prevent something like that. Although we're definitely going to try and do our best to catch as many of these edge cases as possible. But that's a really complex situation to try.
I think what I would give as a counter argument is like, yes, I think that the rating system does help weed that out and smooth out those experiences, but I think it's actually important that we don't remove them, because I think it's actually a very interesting part of it that you're not guaranteed. You're dealing with actual people, and in space, when you're dealing with actual people, there's always that little bit of danger. How much do you know this person? Can you trust them? If you just get picked up by a random person, there's a little bit of a social contract there, but that's not a guarantee. And I think that's actually an interesting part of the experience. You have those guarantees whenever you engage with the mission content. You might get ambushed, but it'll be part of the mission. With this, yes, you know that the person has a particular rating, so more than likely you're going to get an experience that you expect, but you will have times when you'll be surprised, and I think that's actually a good thing.
Yeah, it'll become interesting, as it's one of those things that kind of adjusts itself over time as players begin to build reputation in the world. Not just the star system, because the star rating, I think, will be a great first step. But you're going to start to learn names. You're going to start you're going to start asking, hey, has anybody taken a mission from Chad before? He's got a 4-star rating right now. So I don't know if that was somebody who trolled the rating, or if he's genuinely a jerk.
Maybe they're in a rival org.
Exactly. Working with your org mates, working with your friends who are maybe in other orgs, and just building up a rep, just like in real life. I think that's the big part of that.
It also allows you to build up the idea of this, I'd say, like this economy aspect to it, because if you're known for being reliable for escorting people, you can charge a little extra for that, because, hey, I'm going to be good for this, versus, oh, I'm kind of broke and I need help. Well, I'll take someone that might be a risk. So you kind of build this. The longer you do it as a provider, you start going, okay, I'm proving I can do this. I'm building a reputation, and that reputation can have monetary impact. So.
Yeah, you make a great point there. That as you build your reputation, even beyond the 5, even the star rating is where that starts. But as you build your reputation, that ability for you to charge more, that ability for you, it's like, hey, I've got a proven record. I've got an org that backs me up. When I'm involved, that stuff's on the fly. It's like that. That's going to be critical for combating the kind of thing that this person is talking about. There's a follow-up question here. It's from another backer, but I think it's a good follow-up here. What reasons would there be for people to not just take missions from 5 stars? Why would you choose to take a mission from a 4-star person or a 3-star person?
Maybe. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you.
I was just going to say it's going to be hard to maintain that 5-star rating. So the rating.
I have back-end access, so I'll just hack it. Hard for them.
The ratings will constantly be trying to normalize down to a zeroed out level. So if you're not consistently performing these actions and getting rated highly for your service, you're not going to be a 5-star person. So when you put a contract up, you need to be really careful. It's like, how many people are with the 5-star rating that are in my area or even willing to take this job at this time, right? So it's going to be a little bit of a balancing act for the players to kind of figure out, do I put this up, and only require a higher level, or do I want to maybe open up the field a little bit to maybe a little bit of that trolling for the sake of having more opportunity for people to provide this service. But that's up for the players to balance if they want to maybe not get their service or be escorted or picked up or delivered or whatever for a while, right? It might take a while for somebody with that rating to come through. Like that's up to them, and so that's where they just get to decide how they want to deal with it. But I agree with Chad's point. Like it's up to the players to kind of figure this out, and it's part of the game. It's part of the fun to
a living, breathing universe.
Choose how you deal with it. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you right now to gently push that reclaimer a little off. You've almost waved and hit it a couple times, and if you were it's taken enough abuse from Tyler. So thank you. Just want to keep it safe. You could also just ship it here
Yeah,
if you
just
want. If you
right
just
to
want
my
to ship
desk.
it here, it would be very safe here.
Thank you.
Questions from the live chat here. Is it possible to make emergency beacons that don't cost any money to create, like medical support, refuel, repair, something like calling 911?
Actually, that's something that we're looking at for one of the things that we're looking at next. I'm not saying that's necessarily going to go into the next release or not, but
Thanks, Todd.
distress beacons are something that we're very interested in. And in fact, whenever we first started working on the feature, it was always part of the discussion that there would be some way that you could fire up some distress call and get help. And it's not necessarily that there's a price associated with it, though there could be. But it's just say, hey, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I just got ambushed or whatever. Like, there's some quick, maybe a hotkey, maybe an interaction that you can just automatically throw it up. And if somebody's nearby, they'll get the notification. They can go help you. It's just a way of saying, hey, I need help. And if someone wants to be kind, they can.
Yeah.
But maybe they're a pirate. So
Yeah. Maybe they come help the other side.
I feel like I understand one of the reasons why we haven't decided one way or the other, because there are advantages and disadvantages to having it cost something. If you have a distress beacon cost something, then you cut down on abuse. You know, it's for the fake calls. The fake calls are going to cost that person something to make the fake calls. If they're all just free willy nilly, then you can have people spamming and just setting traps for free with no recourse to themselves. Right. So it's definitely an interesting thing that would need to be explored and continue to mull over.
Although they're going to be a service beacon like any other, so they will have a reputational feedback associated with them. So if somebody, like, they can't just keep doing it. Maybe they'll do it a couple times and they'll get it. But if they keep doing that, they're going to get a reputation for it. So.
And there is also whatever criminal rating that you're going to get because of the actions that you do, right? So you trap somebody, you take their ship, you steal from them, you kill them, you whatever. Like, that's all those things are going to eventually have some sort of criminal rating associated with it that just builds up, and you get bounties, you get potentially thrown in jail someday, right? Like, that's those are all not without outside of the realm of reason of the universe. So there's consequences to your actions, and some people are going to be okay with being a pirate and being that guy, but they're going to be hunted. They're going to be highly sought after. They're not going to be able to fly in UE space. Like, there's going to be consequences to those actions. So,
but again, we don't want to like completely remove like piracy from the game. Like, that's part of the game.
Space isn't safe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, Chris has long maintained a risk versus reward thing.
Yep.
We talked about the concierge dinner party on this Friday, and the folks who came got to all submit one question ahead of time, and we did a whole Q&A stuff, and there were quite a few questions about piracy in that, and you see Chris's eyes light up when he talks about privacy. Or piracy. It's one of those things. You have to make the system. You have to make how everything is supposed to work before you can go and make how you're supposed to be able to exploit it. So I think he and a lot of folks here are just as anxious as our backers and our viewers are to develop the how things are supposed to work, so that we can start getting to the point where, like, now how can people subvert that and stuff. It's going to be an exciting time.
And I think a lot of the ways that they're going to be able to get around that stuff is just going to come naturally through the gameplay, right? We're going to build it a certain way, and they're going to find their ways around it and to cause their havoc if that's what they're interested in. So it's going to be fun to see how they kind of exploit those things.
I really thought you were going, it will come naturally because people are terrible. I thought that's where you were going.
Well, that goes without saying.
From the live chat here, will players be able to request transportation of one of their ships via service beacon? Now does that mean, there's not detail. I don't know if that person mean come and fly my ship to some place, or come load my ship up inside your cargo bay. I don't know. Which
or
one
my
you're
ship
referring
is on one planet, and I want you to take it to me.
Yeah, I don't know if the question means come board my ship and fly it for me, or load it up. I don't know.
Those are some things that we've talked about quite a bit originally when Tony Zervek first came on board several years ago. Like that. We want people to be able to, hey, I want you to take this cargo from, this planet to this planet, and I fronted the money for it, and I need somebody to take it out there. And ships are not outside of that. They're going to be pinned to a spaceport somewhere. So, you're going to be at this planet. You want to get this ship over here. How do you do that without, constantly ferrying your own stuff around? You're going to need somebody else to fly it, somebody you trust, or somebody that is known for doing a good job at that. So I think that's absolutely going to be something at some point.
Another question from the live chat. A very common feature in most MMOs is the ability to open up a trade window and just give somebody something. It's like, here's 10,000 credits, and here's a roll of wool and silk or whatnot. Now, we've talked in the past through Calling All Devs One Out that the service beacon system is our way to do that. This person is asking, will it be possible to just open up a trade service beacon? Like, hey, I'm just trying to give you things. I don't need you to go and fly anywhere. I don't need you to go and do anything. I'm just trying to give you this stuff. Is that something that we're looking at, talking about?
We've, at least within the design team, we've been talking about some sort of trade window, trade mechanism where players can do exactly that. So the service beacon is the first thing in the game where players are allowed to trade services or money, but this is just the beginning of this type of feature. So it's definitely coming. I'm not sure when that's slated, but it's actively being talked about in the design group.
You can kind of already do this. So like if you throw up a combat assist beacon right now, you can just pay someone and there's no end to it until either side cancels the contract. So if you want to give just money to somebody, they can accept it, and then you can just pay them however much money over the period of time. That said, if you want to give a fixed amount to a particular person guaranteed, this isn't the right methodology for it. The service beacons are broadcast, and you can filter that down, but it's not really, I think, so much directed, at least yet. So I think maybe something like a trade, like a more formal like trade experience makes more sense for exactly that.
And possibly expanded beyond just credits. What if I wanted to pay somebody in aluminum? Like I am just the aluminum magnate of the Crusader system, and I've got a million units here, and I just want to pay somebody in aluminum instead of my credits. Will I be able to offer rewards other than just credits for these missions?
We haven't really talked about that.
We haven't. It's technically possible.
It's not outside the realm of reason. We're dealing mostly with UE, or primarily with UEC or alpha currency right now, just because that's what's in the player's wallet, and that's how we do the transactions. But once we get the trade system where players can open up trade windows and stuff in, there's no reason why we couldn't expand. Like, hey, take me here and I'll give you 1,000 of my units of whatever. Like that's.
Yeah, because it makes sense to me that at some point down right now, it makes sense to keep it to Alpha UEC because we're attempting to fine tune those things. How much UEC is really worth in the galaxy. We want the testing to be there, but it makes sense to me at least that at some point you're going to want to be able to like offer, here are components. Here's my personally tuned component, and whoever does this for me, I'm going to pay you in goods. As far as
the biggest thing we have there becomes our interfacing. How do we provide that to the player? That becomes a big part of it.
Well, I think the tangible experience is interesting. But in the game, we're trying to reduce as much like hand wavy magic, right? So, where is this gold, and how do you give it to them? Like normally whenever you have a commodity, it's in your cargo grid, so it's a physical thing. And if now I want you to take me somewhere and I give you gold, how does it end up, like how do you get it?
Like you have to store stuff in a bank. You can only do bank to bank transfer kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe something like that, or maybe you have to have the other ship and it gets transferred, or they both get taken to ATC.
I don't know. CR's always been really big on the tangible nature of it, and he wants to see cargo being moved from one thing to another. So once we get like the tractor beam in, which mining is kind of the first, implementation of that, the cargo mover is not going to be far off. So you'll be able to get your paw tool and move some boxes or hand carry them to somebody else's ship, assuming that it's a good that can be moved that way. And then items are probably not too far behind that with just being able to physically move them. But I can almost guarantee that CR is probably going to be interested in that item being physically there for the trade to happen.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is a good time to remind everybody that we are exploring an idea
Yes.
right here.
Yes.
We said it at the beginning. I want to reiterate it at the end. Right now, the service beacon system, as it's being developed, and we're only still in the earliest iterations of it. It's strictly an alpha UEC thing. We're still building up the types of missions and the types of things you can do. We're discussing the idea of expanding it to other commodities and items, but this is by no means confirmed. It's just something we all agree. It seems like a good idea and stuff. And so when we have more to say in that regard, you can be sure that you'll see it on either Around the Verse or Calling All Devs or in a later episode here. But right now, that was just a discussion, just
for clarity's sake.
Just for clarity's sake. This question came up a couple times, so I'm going to combine them. Is there any phenomena that would interfere with the broadcast of a service beacon? We got one question that mentions electronic warfare, one question that mentions environmental phenomena like nebulas, or a surface side phenomena like a sandstorm. Maybe a service beacon can't broadcast through the heaviest storm on whatever. Has there been any talk about things that could inhibit the ability of a service beacon to do its job?
I've always kind of liked the idea of having the comm arrays be something that can help carry the signal or boost its range, or if you go out into dead space out on the outer rim or something, you're outside the comm areas, so your comms in the ship need to physically reach the distance that they cover. Otherwise, if you're within the comm network, then you can pretty much send it as far as the comm arrays can broadcast. But we haven't fully figured out exactly how the transfer of information or that signal is going to be transmitted through the system yet. But that's kind of how I see it, working at the end of the day, and going from system to system. Like, do you really want to send a service beacon message to someone 3 systems away? Is that really a beneficial thing? So it depends on what it is, and we just have to play around with it and really find kind of that cool middle ground.
Yeah, because it'll be interesting, because you mentioned the service beacons, and what instantly came to mind is the old 2.0 gameplay of going around and disabling the comm arrays, the comm arrays, and whether an assaulting force might go around and disable the comm arrays that are surrounding a particular moon or whatnot before going down and raiding somebody's homestead. And so
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
And I thought about this just as far as the economy info, and like, how do I get or understand what the prices are on a different planet? Well, I would like that information to be transmitted through the comm arrays, so that if somebody goes and takes that down, then all of a sudden the Herald has a really important role, which is like bridging the gaps between these communication breaks in the network. So it's trying to make sure that we've got a purpose for all these things is really, it's on my mind quite a bit. And I think that's really interesting as a player too, for an information runner, or for there's a Herald out there and he's allowing service beacons to go through, or the economy info, or just missions or distress calls or whatever. Like, I think that would be really neat for the players. But that's how I envision that kind of working.
I mean, for me, I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier, which is this is the kind of thing that drives the players together. And whether that's in collaboration or in opposition, it's making the environment much more interesting and dynamic. If we're making service beacon distribution tied in some way to some physical element in the game, then that means that that's something that can be attacked. And that means that now we have this interesting kind of interplay between the player base. So yeah, I think I love that idea. I really hope that at some point we do get around to doing that kind of stuff. I think it'll be really cool gameplay.
It also builds on that if that data can be stopped, then that data can gain value. Because if it's not guaranteed that that's getting everywhere, but I can guarantee that, now I've got a service I can make money doing. So.
Now, important modifier there. You said if it becomes physical. Again, just for the folks who write up the summaries, and for the folks that read the summaries and don't watch the full thing, don't miss the context. We're exploring the idea of making it physical, guys. Because a couple of the questions we're asking if the service beacon itself would become a physical item. And have we made a decision in that regard yet? At least if the beacon itself would become a physical item?
No, I don't know of any plans. I mean, to me, it's something that you're using your comm equipment for. Like just, lore wise, like I envision this as like, yeah, it's like me turning on my radio. It's
Yeah. Your
there's a
Mobi-Glass is the
receiver
beacon,
for it,
kind of
or
thing.
yeah, it's a Mobi-Glass, or it's part of the ship, communication hardware, right? It's the future, right? And people have the ability to send, communications through the airways. But to me, what the physicalized part is, how they the comm arrays or
How the information
whatever
gets from A to B.
amplifies that signal through space, right?
Yeah.
Now, as a gameplay programmer, I think that we could maybe do more to make that experience more interesting if we were interested in that. So like we could fire off like an effect and maybe like some cool sound, stuff like that, and maybe when you accept something, just make it more fun.
Sure, yeah.
But but still keeping it virtual, like communication based, but make it more of an exciting thing when one gets fired off or accepted, or you receive one, something like that.
And maybe a notification on your end when the signal is not getting through. Like if it does become physicalized and somebody does shut down the comm links or the comm arrays or whatever, some notification to you so that you're not just sitting there.
Or if your signal's being jammed, or
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
right? Yeah, absolutely. You're going to want that feedback.
We've got a couple questions here that all go towards the filtering of who can accept your service beacons. We've got folks asking if they could set a service beacon that can only be seen by their org mates. If they can send a service beacon that can only be set to some kind of list of preferred contractors, or if they can set service beacons that can only be accepted by 5-star and 4-star people. Have we had any conversations about filtering allowing people to filter who can actually accept their missions?
I mean,
Yeah,
there's
that's 100% part of the plan. Right now, the options that the players have are extremely limited because we're putting in the foundation for the system to actually work. But who can see it, whether it's your friends list or your org mates, or we've already got the reputational stuff in. You're going to have the ability to kind of customize, the range on it. I only want people that are really close to me, or I only want people that I know or good ratings, or it's definitely in the future.
Yeah, I mean,
so
you can already do some filtering based on the star rating when you deploy it. So it's obviously something we've thought about. Also, going from the other direction is something that we plan on. It's something that we've been talking about. So not just that I can say who can receive it, but also I can say what I see. So right now it's pretty kind of broadcast all. You send it, everybody gets it, and that could be potentially noisy depending on how many people engage with the feature. So we could add filtering options to it where you can say, I'm personally only interested in combat assistance, even if I meet all the requirements who somebody who broadcasts a combat assistance beacon is specifying. And I think that will be good on both sides of it, so that I'm not spamming people whenever I make a beacon that don't really care about it. And for my player experience, if there's certain parts of it or all of it that I'm not really interested in, I can make my experience the one that I want to have. So,
we got a question in the live chat. Is service beacons the intended way for us to find crewmates? Is that how we're going to recruit crewmates, pay them at the end of a mission? Is the service beacons the first start of that?
It wasn't really intended to be that. We want you to, the same way that you would hire NPCs in the game, which obviously isn't there yet, but through some sort of recruitment agency, maybe if you're looking to be a crewmate on somebody's ship, you can go in and apply, put your information in, and then you can get hired alongside of any other NPCs. Or that's part of the networking and social aspect too of the game, right? We want people to engage with each other and oh, hey, you did a really good job, hauling my stuff from here to there, or providing this escort service. Do you want to, we're running a big ship. Do you want to be a part of it? That's, it could absolutely be looked at as kind of the proving grounds of this is what I'm capable of, and maybe that's how you get hired into some of these bigger organizations or something. But it definitely wasn't intended for this is how I'm going to hire a crew member. Yeah, staff my ship up. They're talking about some other mechanisms of how you're going to hire crew members with the capital ship gameplay. team and the multi-crew team.
Yeah, and additionally, there's work going on right now actually on the party system in LA, and so that's another way that you can get players together, and they can do things like potentially start doing missions together, maybe even service beacon contracts. I don't know. It's still in development. Yep. We're still thinking about what all of it means, but I think the service beacons will be a good way to put like players like together, and then you'll have experiences, and maybe you'll have a really good experience with someone, and then you'll say, let's actually get in a party together and let's go multi-crew and go do this mission or go do something else. And now we have this like more permanent relationship. So the service beacon's a contract that has like a duration and a it gets satisfied. But then if you want to have something that's a little bit longer lasting, maybe you join a party, and then maybe that gets bigger and you start an org or something like that. So it's the service beacons won't solve all these problems, but I think it'll be an important part to make it all come together.
It's the way we introduce Meet Cute to the Star Citizen universe. It's how you're going to meet people.
Right.
Okay. Will we eventually be able to write or add our own text to the service beacon to describe the mission I'm offering in greater detail with some personalized background?
That's a double-edged sword right there. Yeah. It's not currently being talked about, but it's been talked about in the past. Like, it's not currently part of the end goal, just for the sake of trying to keep the universe a little clean for some of the kids out there. That just opens up a real Pandora's box of expletives and things like that to be thrown into text boxes. So
I can already see a number of challenges there. One, it's a localization issue.
Yeah, certainly.
It's a localization. Yep. Two, you said earlier in this show, you want the service beacons from players to look just like the service beacons from NPCs and stuff like that. So the very first line in any custom field is going to be, "This is a player request." That will be the first line in every single, to help folks determine whether this is a player. It allows folks to bypass that effort that we're trying to do to make everybody seem like they're all one. So
a couple things there. Like one, funnily enough, we actually had a bug at one point that you could actually type into the money thing. So like it actually existed at a point in time kind of that you could do this. And so, but we fixed that. Also, I worked on Elder Scrolls Online, and that you could do like email and stuff like that. Not email, but mail. You can message other players, and the file where you filtered out language was one of the like most offensive things like in the world. It's just imagine like what all the bad things in the world all in one file to try to filter out language.
So it's not us saying that it won't ever happen. It's just it's us saying it's still under discussion and still under review.
It has to be thought through and done just right.
File.
Let's see. What else do we got from the live chat? We are moving through these questions. Tyler, I need more questions. Let's see. Will you be able to launch a quote-unquote, "Please help me, I'm being attacked right now," in the middle of being attacked, while you're busy trying not to get blown up? Is there going to be some kind of shorthand so you don't have to go while you're flying your ship?
Yeah, that's actually one of our things that we're working on actively. That I'm in the middle of writing up those conditions exactly. How do we do our distress call? That's kind of like the Hail Mary. I don't have time to go into my Moby class. I'm piloting my ship. So how can we either put it on like a quick button on the comm screen on your MFD, or just have a hotkey that's like, I need help. Here's my SOS.
Yeah, maybe like a macro to macro key to just one specific type of help. I suck. Come help.
Yeah. So we're talking about like possibly having a concept of like a template or like a highlighted beacon contract with all the parameters filled out, so that maybe you could hit the key and that gets filled out and sent off, and maybe it has a price or not. It's kind of up to you. And then, you can let the players respond to it. And the thing I really like about this is I like the feature a lot, and it's similar to things, other features in the game. I would like to see things where Moby Glass is always there to give you all the full power that you want, but it's not a requirement to engage in the feature. So I really like the fact that we got acceptance of service beacons to work without opening mobiGlas, and it's cool that this is now we can do the full loop completely without opening mobiGlas. You can fire it off, someone else can accept it, you can go land, do the thing, and it works. But if you want to get like really specific about tweaking it to however you want, you can do that as well. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where was it here? There have been a couple questions from these came mostly from the thread we put up yesterday about pirates and how pirates would use the service beacon. Now, one of the questions flat out said, will pirates be allowed to use the service beacon? And I think the misnomer there is that a pirate is like a faction in the game. Like when you create your character, am I creating law-abiding citizen or am I creating a pirate citizen? There's nothing that would outright prevent any citizen from participating in the service beacon system.
Once we implement the tattoo filtering, then maybe, but no, it's not like that. I mean, perhaps some of the details that are in the filtering options will naturally filter out some of those people that you would call a pirate, but certainly it's not going to be like, oh, pirate, no.
Yeah,
Criminal
it'll never be explicitly shut off from you, but
Right.
you may not see certain beacons or whatever because your
Yeah.
reputation's so low because you blow everyone up you fly on. So
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think some of that gets handled by the reputation filter and stuff like that. But I think it's there. Well, again, this is a system that you have to develop how things are supposed to work before you start developing how it can be abused and whatnot. But I think pirates have to have some ability to see, even if you put a filter that doesn't allow somebody below 4 stars to do it, I think you still have to be able to see that something's out there. And like, even though, I've got a 1-star rating, and they won't let me accept it. They won't let me, but I can see from the thing that there's somebody out there. I know there's blood in the water.
Right, yeah.
So they can go. It's going to be an interesting balance that challenge.
Yeah. What we don't want the system to be is, like right now you can we put up nav markers so you can get to the other person. We talked about the fact that people are going to accept a mission, get the nav marker, and then come out and then drop the mission, and then they're right there, right? So this is all just part of the gameplay, and what you expose yourself to is like, if I ask for help, I could get this. Is it worth it? And then so I'm going to offer enough of money to attract somebody who's really good at it, or who's in the reputation range that is mostly reliable, or that just goes. You want anybody to answer? Here you go. Like you're gonna get what you pay for. So that's again, it's just a choice, and it's part of the dynamic universe that. We just don't want it to be like a tracking system, though, right? It's like that. That's certainly not what it's intended for, but. We do want the idea that sometimes people set traps and players are going to do it, and when NPCs can be involved with the universe, that's already like a mission, right? An ECM mission where you can get ambushed by a pirate somewhere. You get pulled out of quantum travel, or you're just flying around, and guess what? There's pirates. So that's definitely something that's part of the game, and again, it's doesn't matter if it's a player or an NPC. It's a fact of the universe. So,
yeah. What can you tell us about like bounty hunting missions? Being able to place bounties. We got a couple questions about using service beacons to say, this guy's a pain in my butt. He robbed me or whatever, and placing a bounty on Michael. And I'm using Michael for the example. I think we all know why I'm using Michael for the example.
It's fair.
I don't have to explain it. What are our thoughts about the future of that system? I mean, how much trouble are we going to be able to cause for Michael through putting bounties?
So a couple things there. One, bounties are certainly something that we have talked about. I think more likely in the nearer term, assassination is effectively the same thing. But the key thing about this is that assassination, you have no guarantees about the ramifications of what you've requested. So if I ask you to kill somebody and then you kill them, then if it was out in a place where you're going to get some criminal rating for it, you'll get the criminal rating and I'll get the criminal rating for it. So there's going to be repercussions for the actions. You can do it, but that doesn't mean there's not repercussions. Bounty, on the other hand, importantly, is going to be through the legal channels, and so therefore it will allow to say, okay, whatever UEC, somebody has mandated that this person has broken the law, and so therefore killing them is actually not only legal, but you'll get paid for it. So, like,
The best kind of legal.
Yes, the best kind of legal. so I think they're both interesting and useful, but I think assassination will come first because it's less complicated.
Yeah,
It's easy.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, that's definitely the easier of the two because the bounty system implies a certain sophistication of the criminal system.
Yeah.
That we don't currently have. So as we evolve the criminal system, get more of those rules in place, then all of a sudden what you do that warrants a bounty will become more and more detailed and understood by the game. And that will allow us to then, okay, well, yeah, this guy stole some goods, so he stole some things, and I'm going to put a bounty on him for this, and there you go, cool. And then guess what? Right now we've got all of our different servers, we don't have the server mesh up and running. So when you leave server A and go to server B, that bounty or assassination contract is going to follow you wherever you go. So, I think that's going to be a really cool element to that kind of contract.
Yeah, I want to emphasize something. We started talking about bounties, and we went to talking about assassinations.
Yes.
As has been discussed a number of times over the last 2 years, actually, assassination has been our intention, the very first version of that type of bounty system. But Chris has maintained for years that yes, we want a fully featured bounty hunting system where you'll be able to capture, and that's what the pods in the Avenger are for and stuff like that. So I don't want anybody to be discouraged when the first version of this comes and it's just kill people. That's not, we are building this game out live in front of everybody, and you have to start somewhere, and that is the start of that system.
Yeah, assassination would be just like the first step to setting such a system up. I mean,
it's the wanted dead part of wanted dead or alive.
Exactly,
It's the reason
yeah.
it comes first.
Yes.
it's much
do the
easier to
dead
kill
part.
something than keep it alive. So
Yeah, we do the dead part first, and then we develop the alive part after that. Here's an interesting question. Will we be able to mask our name in a service beacon? Now, like allowing for the star rating, so people can still see, this is a mission from a 2 or 3 star person, but will we be able to submit anonymous service beacons?
That hasn't been talked about. That implies some devious nature, I think, by the person setting up the beacon. But yeah, that's a good question. I think that's something for us to talk about, because we certainly haven't talked about it. And our mission text, like I don't know if anybody's even read the mission text or the objective text for the service beacons, but we actually insert the name of the person or the destination, dynamically into the text. So it would have to, be incorporated in that system as well. But interesting.
I can see some virtues in it. You'd never want to hide the star rating. So that's the purpose of that thing, I guess. But if you're somebody trying to play both sides of the law, or you're generally a law-abiding citizen, but it's like, man, I really need this thing, and the only place it's available right now are in non-UEE spaces, because the economy has shifted. It's like, but I don't want to get blamed for paying the contraband, so I will offer 10 times the amount that it would normally cost to keep my identity hidden, and it protects me, but it's a greater risk, for the player who assumes it. But but a greater risk comes with a greater reward and stuff. So I can see some virtues in it. It'll definitely be, again, not committing to it.
Maybe we just need some sort of alias system that allows people to post things as their alias or as their real name.
Chris has talked about this. This is even farther ahead than you guys, but Chris has talked about for a number of years the ability to alter your identity at times. If you do generate a criminal record that's so severe, to be able to go through a process, a very arduous process, not an easy process by any means, but a process to wipe your record clean, a more involved version of the station at Correa that lets you just clear your wanted kind of thing. So again, you have to build how things are supposed to work before you start building how you're going to circumvent it. So that's still a ways out, but there are a lot of exciting considerations to this.
Yeah, we talked a lot about identity spoofing as well. You know, just being able to, for a limited time or something, show a fake name above your head, or you know, go by an assumed name, for the purposes of getting into a highly secured area or bypassing customs or something like that, because you're a wanted person. So it's things that we've talked about. It's just how do we apply it to the service beacon hasn't really been discussed yet.
Okay. So we're down to our last question of the show. So no, everybody always freaks out. Everybody's like, "Oh, Jared, I want to do this. It's Friday." It's I'm like, it goes fast. I promise. What do you think about the possibility of allowing service beacons that multiple people can accept?
That is something that we have definitely talked about. There's a little bit of tech that needs to be developed to get that to work, but it's not insurmountable at all. And certainly things like the assassination contract warrant it. So if I put out a contract on Michael's head, because we all apparently agree that he should die.
It'll happen.
Yeah. It's not just that one person is going to potentially kill him. You know, there's a race there, so multiple people could accept the contract, and now, you know, time is of the essence. So that is definitely something we've been talking about, and there will be real work for it. Yeah, I think so.
Gotcha. So the service beacon system, I mean, it may not have the flashiest name. It may not have the sexiest name, but I don't think it can be understated just how important and vital this system is to the future of Star Citizen. I mean, it is. You know, when we're sitting here, we talk about building the living, breathing universe. It's the biggest way we're going to do that is through you guys and the use of this service system. We provide you the tools, and you guys will make this into something far more than we could ever intend. It's an incredibly exciting system, and I've been chomping at the bit to get the ATV segment out so that we can do this, because this system is so much of what I think most of us have been waiting for.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's the beginning of a really cool thing, I think, and it's really no end to the amount of content that we can provide in terms of the types of beacons. It's just, you know, as we get new game rules in place, great, here's another option for a different beacon type or a different contract type. So you're going to see a lot more of this as we go on, and as the game evolves, it's just going to be part of, you know, the overall game and how you play it.
Yep.
So it's exciting.
It is. It's very exciting. So, for Chad McKinney, for Michael Dillon, and for Rob Reininger, thank you so much for joining us on today's show about the service beacons. We're going to take a short break, play another video from our community, and when we're back, we'll do the wrap-up. Stay tuned.